World Stories Bank, bringing timeless multicultural stories to life for children around the globe.
Part 1. Mirror, Mirror. Once upon a time, a princess named Snow White lived in a castle with her father the king and her stepmother the queen. Her father always reminded his daughter that above all else, a royal family must be fair. He said, "People over all the land come to the castle to settle disputes. The ruler must hear each side and make a decision that's fair." The queen, Snow White's stepmother, knew how important being fair was to her husband. She went to her magic mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," said the magic mirror. "What?" shouted the queen in surprise. "No one is more fair than I. The queen must be the best at everything. What's more fair than that?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," stated the magic mirror again. The queen shook her fists. "What do you know? You're a mirror." She threw a blanket over the mirror and stormed off. Still, the queen was bothered, so much so that the queen decided to be rid of the girl once and for all. "I cannot wait another day to deal with her," she resolved. The queen called for her servant, a huntsman. Pointing her long fingernail at him, she said, "Tomorrow find a reason to take Snow White deep into the woods and kill her." The huntsman was shocked, but she was the queen. What could he do? The next day he took Snow White into the woods. As he drew his knife to slay her, Snow White turned around. "Look," she said. She took from her pocket 6 perfect animal shapes carved of wood. "I made them for you." "Snow White," cried the huntsman, dropping to his knees, "I cannot do this." "You must accept them. They are a gift," said Snow White. "That's not what I meant," said the servant. "How can I say this? The queen, your stepmother, ordered me to kill you." The huntsman dropped to his knees. "But I cannot." "She what?" Snow White called out with alarm. "You must run away," said the huntsman, "far away, now, and never go back to the castle." Snow White turned and ran into the woods as fast as she could. Part 2. The Dark Woods. Deeper and deeper into the darkening woods she ran. Wolves were starting to howl. She tripped and tore her skirt but kept running. Tall tree branches seemed to reach down to the very ground to grab her, but she kept running. She was scratched, bleeding, and scared, but ran on till she could run no more. All of a sudden, a light blinked far in the distance. Who would live so deep in the woods? She stepped up closer to the light. It came from a cottage, yet no sound came from the cottage, only the flickering light from the windows. "Hello?" she said, knocking softly on the door. "Hello?" No answer. The door was a little bit open. She opened it some more and stepped in. "Hello, is anyone home?" She looked around. What a mess. "Maybe if I clean up around here," she thought, "the ones who live here will let me stay here tonight." As she cleaned, she thought of someone. Before her father married the queen, her stepmother, she and a prince who lived in a nearby kingdom were spending time together. When he visited, they would take walks in the royal garden, tell each other stories of life at court, and laugh at all the oddities that was the life they led. However, once her father remarried, the stepmother made a new rule: no more visitors. "It wasn't seemly," she said in a firm voice. Now the prince had to slip over the castle gate in secret. The prince would call out to her from under her bedroom window, and they would talk a bit that way. They had to keep their voices so low, so it wasn't as good as walking in the royal garden, but it was the best they could manage. She fretted. If she never returned again to the castle, would she ever see him again? What would he think of her when he came to visit and she was no longer there? Part 3. What kind of magic is this? After Snow White cleaned up the living room, she climbed a ladder to the attic. Upstairs, 7 little beds, sized as if for children, were lined up in a row. Tired from cleaning, Snow White yawned and lay directly across all 7 beds. Before she could even stretch out her arms, she was fast asleep. In the meantime, the 7 dwarfs were headed home from a long day of working in the jewel mines. When they opened the door, you can imagine their surprise when they saw their cottage glistening. "What kind of magic is this?" said one of the dwarfs, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. He was grumpy. "I wouldn't mind more magic like this," said another of the dwarfs with a grin. He was Dopey. "We'd better check the attic," said another dwarf. His name was Doc. "Something is strange around here, take my word for it. Well, we might as well go upstairs and see what we find." Much to their surprise, lying across all their beds was a young lady with a sweet face, fast asleep. "Who are you?" said all the dwarfs at once. Snow White bolted awake. The 7 dwarfs could tell she was as surprised as they were. When everyone calmed down, they told their stories. Snow White learned their names: Bashful, Doc, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, and Sneezy. She told them about life in the castle and her stepmother, that her stepmother had tried to get the huntsman to kill her, that the huntsman had told her she must escape into the woods, and that she could never go back home again. "Stay here with us," said Bashful. "How nice of you," said Snow White. "But if I were to stay here, I would have to do something for all of you." "You already cleaned up," said Sneezy, and then sneezed. "Achoo!" "It looks like there's more dusting to do," said Snow White. "We could keep the house tidy as long as everyone pitches in. I can teach everyone so they know what to do. And I'll do my share too, of course." "That's fair," said Happy. "You bet," Snow White nodded. "There must be something else I can do for you," said Snow White. The 7 dwarfs shrugged. "Do you know how to read?" said Doc. "We have books with wonderful pictures and would love to be able to read them." So it was agreed that Snow White would teach them all to read. To celebrate their new friendship, Snow White and the 7 dwarfs sang and danced the night away. Part 4. Do not open the door. The next morning before they left for work, the 7 dwarfs warned Snow White that she must not open the door to anyone. After all, who knows what evil her stepmother might do? The princess nodded, and the dwarfs left the house. The princess prepared her first reading lesson. She also prepared a good hot meal for the 7 dwarfs for when they returned home later that night. And so the day passed. Back at the castle, the queen marched up to her magic mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she demanded, "who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," said the magic mirror. "That's impossible," screamed the queen. "The girl is no longer alive." "Snow White lives," said the magic mirror. An image in the mirror showed Snow White living in the cottage of the 7 dwarfs. Rage filled the queen's body. She screamed, "Snow White will not get away with this." Part 5. The Apple, the Coffin, and the Prince. At the cottage of the dwarfs the next afternoon, when the 7 dwarfs were away at work, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" said Snow White. She remembered the warning of the 7 dwarfs not to open the door to anyone. "It's only a poor old woman," came a squeaky voice, "selling apples." Yet, in fact, it was the evil queen disguised as an old woman. "It's raining outside, dearie," said her voice through the door. "Please let me in." Poor thing, thought Snow White, having to go door to door selling apples in the rain. She opened the door. "That's odd," she said, looking around. "No rain." "Just stopped," said the old woman, who, as you know, was really the queen in disguise. "Take a look at this big red apple." She put the apple in front of Snow White's face. "Lovely, my dear, isn't it? For only a few coins, it is yours." "I would like very much to buy your apple," said Snow White, "but I have no money." "That fine comb in your hair will make a good trade," said the old woman. "All right then," said Snow White. She gave her comb to the old woman and took the apple in return. Snow White took a big bite, but alas, the fruit was poisoned. At once, Snow White swooned to the ground, where she fell into a very deep sleep. "She is down," shouted the queen, pumping the air with her fists. Just then the door flew open. In marched the 7 dwarfs, home from the day's work. Shocked indeed they were to find Snow White lying on the floor, and what must be her stepmother beside her, laughing with all her might. The 7 dwarfs chased the evil queen out the door and into the storm. Up to the very top of a mountain they chased her, when all of a sudden lightning hit the mountain. The queen fell, and she was never seen again. But nothing could help poor Snow White. She stayed absolutely still in her deep sleep. The 7 dwarfs gently lifted her into a glass coffin. Day and night they kept watch over her, weeping for sorrow. One day the prince happened to ride by the dwarf's cottage. Ever since he learned that Snow White was missing at the castle, he knew something must be terribly wrong. He hopped on his horse and had been searching for her ever since. Now he finally found her, but in such a state. The prince lifted the lid to the glass coffin. Her face seemed so fresh, even in that deep sleep. The prince gently took one of Snow White's hands in his own and kissed it. At once Snow White's eyes opened. With love's first kiss, the evil queen's spell was gone forever. The 7 dwarfs let out a big cheer. The prince and Snow White leaned towards each other. Delighted to find each other again, they smiled. Now nothing stood in the way for Snow White and the prince to be together. They bid a fond farewell to the 7 dwarfs and returned to the prince's kingdom, where they could be safe and live free. Before long, they were married and lived happily ever after.
Hey friends, welcome to Stories to Grow By. Today we're reading one of your reactions to Snow White. If you haven't seen our video read-along yet, go watch it and discover why true beauty comes from within. Bob shared this thought: Snow White was the fairest of all because she had a good heart. That's right, Bob. Real beauty is all about how you treat others. For more stories that show how goodness shines, subscribe to Stories to Grow By, where reading and kindness grow together.
In all the land, none was better with a bow and arrow than Robin Hood. He lived with his band of merry men in Sherwood Forest, the same woods where King John kept his royal deer. A few years before, when King Richard ruled the land, the king let people who were poor come into Sherwood Forest and hunt his royal deer to feed their families. When King Richard left England with his army, his brother John stepped up to the throne. Bad King John, as this king would be known, refused to allow anyone else in Sherwood Forest. After all, he was the king of England. Shouldn't he hunt his own royal deer whenever he wanted? King John made it known that anyone seen hunting in Sherwood Forest would be seized at once and thrown in prison. When Robin Hood heard about the king's new decree, he was furious. He moved into Sherwood Forest to defy the king's orders. Dressed in green from cap to boots, Robin Hood camouflaged well in the dark, leafy woods of Sherwood Forest. Soon other brave men entered the Sherwood Forest too, to join Robin Hood and hunt the royal deer. And that is how the merry men came to be. When rich nobles and dukes passed through the woods, Robin Hood and his merry men would hide. Then, in a flash, they would jump out onto the richly decorated carriages, rob the treasures, and give the money to the poor. The rich men who were robbed were not happy about this. They complained to King John about what was happening in Sherwood Forest. King John was enraged. It was bad enough that encroachers were defying his order and hunting his royal deer, but that they were robbing rich travelers too? The king charged the sheriff of Nottingham with catching Robin Hood once and for all. But the man in green was too quick. Each time his merry men would warn him if they saw the sheriff of Nottingham or one of his guards in the woods. Forewarned, Robin Hood could hide or escape. The sheriff came up with a clever plan. "I will announce a great contest," he stated, "to find the most expert bowman in all the land. The grand prize to the winner will be a golden arrow." The sheriff said in a low voice, "If I know Robin Hood, he will not be able to stay away from such a contest, and when he comes, we will snatch him." In the woods, Little John pleaded with Robin Hood, "Don't be swayed by this announcement. Can't you see the contest is a trap? They'll recognize you and grab you." Robin Hood was silent. Of all the merry men, he trusted the judgment of Little John the most. But in his heart, Robin Hood knew he wanted to go. He would go. On the day of the contest, 10 expert bowmen lined up. The sheriff knew all of them except one stranger with an eye patch. The target was so far away from where the archers lined up that it was almost impossible for them to see its black and red circles. One by one, each young man shot his best arrow. Most missed. Some landed on the target, but none came close to the center. The sheriff turned to one of his guards. "Do you see Robin Hood? Where is he?" "We know all of these archers, Your Majesty," said the guard, "except the one with the eye patch. But Robin Hood doesn't wear an eye patch." "The wimp," said the sheriff. "He didn't have the guts to come. He's afraid of me." After a few rounds, 2 finalists remained. The first one was Adam of Dell. With care, he took aim. His arrow landed at the very center of the target, a bull's eye. The crowd cheered for Adam of Dell. It was time for the last bowman with the eye patch. He, too, took careful aim. His arrow also sailed through the air. It landed right through Adam of Dell's bullseye arrow, cutting it in half. In a flash, the stranger let go of 2 more arrows. Each one flew to where the sheriff sat, pinning him to his seat, 1 arrow on each side. The sheriff did not know what was going on. Then the stranger with the eye patch pulled off his disguise and threw it onto the ground. "Get him, you fools!" shouted the sheriff, trying to wrest free from the arrows pinning him. "Can't you see? It's Robin Hood!" Our hero jumped over the wall to a horse waiting for him and escaped. This tale is one of the many adventures of Robin Hood, the most beloved hero in all of England, and one of the most admired heroes in the world.
Hey friends! Today we're sharing more of your thoughts on our story of Robin Hood. If you haven't watched it yet, just go to our page and give your reading skills a boost. Here's Zara's take. It's trying to show the importance of kindness and giving to the less fortunate. Yes, Zara, you got it. Robin Hood's biggest lesson is about helping others, especially those in need. Kindness and generosity always win the day. Want to watch the whole adventure and practice your reading? Come flap on over to our channel.
Part 1, One by One. Once on a farm long ago, a mama duck sat on her nest. "How long must I wait for my babies to hatch? I have to sit here all by myself." But what could she do? A mama duck must keep her eggs warm till they hatch. At last, the eggs began to crack. One yellow duckling stepped out of its shell, then another. Each little chick shook its wings. "Look at you," cried Mama Duck with joy. "You're all so cute." "Quack, quack, quack," they said with pride. "Come, line up," said Mama Duck. "We will go down to the lake for your very first swim." She counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. "Oh dear," she said with a frown. "I had 6 eggs. I should have 6 ducklings." One large egg was still in the nest. "Well," said Mama Duck, "it looks like that big egg will take more time." So she went back to sit on her nest again and wait some more. Part 2. Unlike the others. The next day, the big egg started to hatch. Out popped a baby boy bird. Yet, my goodness, how different this one looked. He was much larger than the others. He was not yellow, but dark gray all over. And after he stepped out of his egg, he walked with a funny wobble. One of the yellow ducklings pointed. "What's that? He can't be one of us." "I have never seen such an ugly duckling," said another. "How can you say such a thing?" said Mama Duck in
all
a
the
very
land,
stern
none was
voice.
better with a
"You are
bow and
only
arrow
1 day
than Robin
old.
Hood.
Your brother
He lived with his
hatched from the
band of
very
merry
same
men in
nest as you
Sherwood
did.
Forest.
Now line up.
The
We
same
will go
woods
to
where
the
King
lake for your
John kept
very
his
first
royal
swim."
deer.
All the
A few
way,
years
the other
before, when
ducklings
King
quacked,
Richard ruled the
"Ugly,
land,
ugly, ugly."
the king let
The
people who were
ugly duckling
poor
did not know
come into
why the other
Sherwood
ducklings
Forest
were yelling
and
at him.
hunt his royal
He fell
deer to feed
behind
their
to take the
families.
last spot in
When
line.
King Richard left England
When they
with
got
his
to the
army,
lake,
his
each
brother
yellow
John
duck
stepped
jumped
up
in and
to the
swam behind
throne.
Mama Duck. When it
Bad
was his
King
turn,
John,
the ugly
as
duckling
this
jumped in
king would
too,
be known,
and he started to paddle.
refused to allow anyone
"At
else in
least he can
Sherwood Forest.
swim," Mama Duck thought
After
to
all,
herself.
he was the king of England.
When the yellow
Shouldn't
ducklings
he
got
hunt
out of
his
the
own
water and
royal
started
deer
to
whenever
play,
he wanted?
the ugly duckling
King
tried to
John
play
made
with
it
his
known
brothers
that
and
anyone
sisters.
seen hunting
They
in
yelled at
Sherwood
him,
Forest
"Go
would be
away, we will
seized at
not play
once
with you.
and thrown
You
in
are
prison.
ugly and you walk weird." When Mama Duck was close by,
When
she
Robin
would
Hood
not let
heard
them
about
talk
the
this way.
king's new
"Be
decree,
nice,"
he was
she would
furious.
scold.
He moved into
But she
Sherwood
was not
Forest to
always
defy
close
the
by.
king's orders. Dressed in
Part
green
3.
from cap to boots,
Get out!
Robin Hood camouflaged well
One
in the
day,
dark
one of the
leafy
yellow
woods
ducklings
of
said
Sherwood
to the ugly
Forest.
duckling, "You know
Soon
what?
other brave
You would
men
do us a
entered the
big
Sherwood
favor
Forest
if you just
too,
went away."
to join Robin
All of
Hood
them
and
started
hunt
to
the
quack.
royal
"Go,
deer.
go away."
And that is how the merry men came
"Why
to
won't
be.
they let me stay with
When
them?"
rich
thought the
nobles
ugly
and
duckling.
dukes passed
He
through
hung
the
his
woods,
head down
Robin
low.
Hood and his
"They
merry
must
men
be
would
right.
hide.
I should go."
Then, in a flash,
That
they
night,
would
the
jump
ugly
out
duckling
onto the
flew over
richly
the farmyard
decorated
fence to the
carriages,
other side of the
rob the
lake.
treasures,
There
and
he
give
met
the
two
money
grown-up
to the
ducks.
poor.
"Can
The
I
rich
please
men
stay
who were
here for
robbed
a
were not
while?"
happy
said
about
the
this.
ugly duckling.
They
"I have
complained
nowhere
to
else
King
to
John
live."
about what was
"What do
happening
we
in
care?"
Sherwood
said one of
Forest.
the ducks.
King John
"It's
was
a big
enraged.
lake. Just don't get
It
in
was
our
bad
way."
enough that
Woof,
encroachers were
woof!
defying
Suddenly,
his
a
order
big, hungry
and
dog
hunting
came
his royal
tearing by,
deer,
chasing the
but
two
that they were
ducks.
robbing rich
They quickly flew
travelers
up in the
too.
air, and their
The
feathers fell
king
down on the
charged
ground.
the sheriff of
The poor,
Nottingham
ugly
with
duckling
catching Robin
froze in
Hood
fear.
once and for all.
The dog sniffed and sniffed at
But
the
the
ugly
man
duckling.
in green was too
Then it
quick.
turned around and
Each
walked
time
away.
his merry men would warn him
"I am
if they
too
saw the
ugly
sheriff
even
of
for that
Nottingham
mean
or
old
one of his
dog,"
guards
said
in
the
the
ugly
woods.
duckling in a sorrowful
Forewarned,
voice.
Robin Hood could hide
The
or
sky
escape.
turned dark. Crack!
The sheriff came up with a
A
clever
bolt
plan.
of lightning lit up
I
the
will
sky.
announce a great
Then came a
contest,
big
he
storm
stated,
with
to
heavy
find the
rains
most
pouring down.
expert bowman
In just
in all
moments, the ugly
land.
duckling was soaked
The
through
grand
and
prize
through.
to the winner
A
will be a
cold
golden
wind
arrow.
started to blow.
The sheriff said in a low voice,
Brrr!
"If I
He
know
held
Robin
both
Hood,
wings
he will
close to his
not
chest.
be able to stay away
If
from such
only
a
there was
contest.
some place I could
And
dry
when
out."
he comes, we will
All
snatch
at
him."
once, a tiny light
In
blinked
the
far
woods,
off in
Little
the woods.
John pleaded
Could
with
it be
Robin Hood.
someone's hut?
"Don't be
The
swayed
ugly
by this
duckling flew to the
announcement.
door.
Can't
"Quack!"
you see the
said he.
contest is a trap?
The door of
They'll
the hut
recognize you
creaked
and grab
open.
you." Robin
"What is
Hood
all
was
this
silent.
noise?" said an old
Of all
woman
the merry
looking right
men,
and
he
left.
trusted the
Her eyes
judgment
were
of
not
Little
that
John
good, but
the
she could
most.
hear.
But in
She
his
looked
heart,
down.
Robin
A
Hood knew he
duck!
wanted to go.
She picked
He
up
would
the ugly
go.
duckling and dropped him inside her hut.
On the day of the contest,
You might as well
10
stay
expert
here, she said,
bowmen
but mind
lined
you,
up.
I expect you
The
to
sheriff
lay
knew
eggs.
all of them except one stranger with an
A
eye
tom
patch.
cat and hen
The target
both
was so
crept
far
up to
away
the ugly
from where the
duckling.
archers lined up that it was
Who
almost
do you think
impossible
you
for them
are?
to
The
see its
tom
black
cat
and red
hissed,
circles.
coming here and
One by
taking up
one,
room
each
by the
young man
fire.
shot his best arrow.
Squawk,
Most
said the hen.
missed.
I am the only
Some
one
landed
around
on the
here who
target,
lays
but
eggs.
none came
You don't know the
close to the
first thing
center.
about laying eggs.
The sheriff turned to
You
one of
got
his
that
guards.
right, said the ugly duckling.
Do
I'm
you
a
see
boy
Robin
duck.
Hood? Where is he?
Then why are you
We know
here?
all of these
Sneered the
archers, Your
tomcat.
Majesty, said
Didn't
the guard.
you hear what the old
Except
woman
the
said?
one with the eye patch.
Imposter!
But Robin
Get out
Hood
of here,
doesn't
yipped
wear
the
an eye
hen.
patch.
Go away,
The wimp,
jeered the
said the sheriff.
tomcat.
He didn't have the guts to
The
come.
door was
He's
still a bit
afraid of me.
open, so the poor ugly
After a
duckling
few
crept out
rounds,
the door
two
and back into the
finalists
storm.
remained. The
No
first
one ever
was
wants
Adam
me,
of
said the
Dell.
ugly duckling with a
With
tear
care,
in
he
its
took
eye.
aim. His arrow landed at the very center
Part
of the
4,
target,
a
a
new
bull's
lake.
eye. The crowd
The
cheered
storm
for Adam
ended.
of Dell.
Finally, he
It
found
was
another
time
lake.
for the last bowman
Looking
with
in
the
the
eye
water,
patch.
the ugly duckling
He
saw a
too
reflection from
took
above.
careful aim.
A flock of large birds
His
were
arrow
flying
also
overhead
sailed
above
through
him.
the air.
He
It
turned
landed
to
right
admire
through
them.
Adam of Dell's
They were the most
bullseye
beautiful
arrow,
birds he had
cutting
ever
it
seen.
in half.
Their
In a
long
flash,
bodies
the
and
stranger
slender
let
necks
go of
winged
2
through
more
the sky
arrows.
with ease and grace.
Each
He
one flew
watched
to where
until
the
the
sheriff
very
sat,
last one had
pinning him to
disappeared
his
from
seat,
view.
1 arrow on each side. The sheriff did not know what was going on. Then the stranger
The ugly
with the eye
duckling
patch
stayed at
pulled
the
off
lake
his
as the
disguise
days grew
and threw it
shorter.
onto the
The
ground.
leaves turned deep
Get him,
red
you
and gold
fools,
and fell to
shouted
the
the
ground.
sheriff, trying to wrest
Winter
free
came,
from the
setting its
arrows
blanket
pinning
of
him.
white snow.
Can't you see?
The cold
It's
wind
Robin
blew
Hood.
and the clouds darkened.
Our hero
He
jumped
had to
over
dive
the
into
wall
small
to a
holes
horse
in the
waiting
ice
for
to
him
find fish
and
to eat.
escaped.
Under the ice, it was all he could do to keep
This tale
paddling
is
so
one
the
of
water
the many
wouldn't freeze
adventures
around
of
him,
Robin
trapping him
the
underneath
most
the lake.
beloved hero in all of England.
He became terribly
and
tired.
one of the most
The ice got
admired
thicker
heroes
still,
in
and
the
the
world.
wind blew harder. In a moment, 2 giant hands swept him up. "You poor thing," said a farmer. He held the ugly duckling close to his thick, warm wool jacket. He didn't fly south with the others. The farmer was carrying him someplace. Where? The next months were lovely. Warmth from the heat of the fire and from the heart of the farmer enveloped our poor hero. For the rest of the winter, the farmer cared for the ugly duckling. Part 5. Spring. At last, spring came. Little dots of green spotted the tree branches. Short, bright flowers popped up from the ground. "It's time for you to go back to the lake and swim again, as you were born to do," said the farmer. He took the duckling back to the lake where he had found him and set him on the water. "I feel good," said the young bird, flapping his wings. "Why, I don't think I ever felt as strong as I do right now." Spring passed, then summer. The leaves started to change colors when one day the ugly duckling heard quiet splashing sounds behind him. He turned around. A flock of those same beautiful birds he had once seen winging through the sky now sat on the lake. "Don't worry," he said to the beautiful birds, holding out one of his wings. "I'm leaving. I won't make trouble for you." When he happened to glance down at the lake, he saw a reflection in the water that looked like one of those beautiful birds. Why was the bird so close to him? He jumped back. The reflection jumped back too. "What's this?" he thought, puzzled. Our troubled hero stretched his neck, and strangely, the reflection of the beautiful bird in the lake stretched its neck too. "Why are you leaving so soon?" called out one of the beautiful birds. "Come back," said another. "Stay with us," said yet another swan. "We'll be friends." Then the bird who used to be the ugly duckling realized what had happened. He was no longer an ugly gray bird that wobbled when it walked. He had grown into a beautiful swan. Then a dark thought crossed his mind. "You only want me because I'm a swan and I look like you," said he. "That's not it at all," said the first swan who had spoken. "We saw you all alone down here and thought you might want to join us. We don't care how birds look. Why, take a look at Pelican over there." No one would take me for a swan, squawked Pelican. How did you end up with them? Asked our hero, who used to be an ugly duckling. Stayed up too late the night before, shrugged Pelican. Slept till noon. My flock took off without me. Was sure glad the swans came along when they did. Thanks, guys, said the second swan who had spoken. And there's Egret. What can I tell you, said Egret. I loved to ride those wind currents. Then found out my entire flock was gone. By then, there was no way I could catch up. If the swans didn't come along and invite me to join them, who knows where I'd be now? The hero, he used to be an ugly duckling, considered these stories, yet still was skeptical. Winter may get a little cold on the lake, he said, but no one bothers me here, and spring comes eventually. Eventually, said the first swan, why suffer if you don't have to? Where we fly to, the sun shines hot all day long. Imagine it, thick, delicious pondweed for as far as you can see, algae, waterside grasses, the works. I see your point, admitted our hero. Besides, said the third swan, I bet you'd love to fly farther than just circling around this lake. We sure do. Another good point. Our hero often imagined how lovely it would be to stretch out and just fly, fly, and fly some more. The bird, who used to be an ugly duckling, considered, these birds may be beautiful to look at, but they are also beautiful inside. This is the flock for me. And so the entire flock, including their newest friend, flapped their wings together, and in one moment the flock took off into the clear blue sky.
Hey there, friends! We've been sharing your thoughts on the Ugly Duckling, and this one really touched my feathers. Here's a message from Fuya Hina. My friends didn't like me because I was too short. Oh, Fuya Hina, that makes me sad to hear. But guess what? The right friends will love you for who you are, not how tall you are. Want to read the full story and grow your reading wings? Check out The Ugly Duckling on our YouTube channel.
Part 1. The Velveteen Rabbit. A soft and fluffy velveteen rabbit lived in a toy box in a boy's room. Each day, the boy opened the toy box and picked up the Velveteen Rabbit. The Velveteen Rabbit felt as happy as the boy. Then, newer, brighter toys came into the toy box. They had special tricks. Some could move when the boy pushed a button, and others bounced high. The Velveteen Rabbit had no special tricks or buttons. After a while, the boy started to choose the other new toys. At night, when the other toys were back in the toy box, the other toys talked with pride about the fine things they could do. The Velveteen Rabbit was quiet. There was not much to say. The only other toy in the toy box that was soft and fluffy like the Velveteen Rabbit and could not do any fancy tricks was Cowboy Horse. Cowboy Horse was old and most of his fur was worn away. Cowboy Horse said to the Velveteen Rabbit, "Do not listen to the rest of them. Soft toys like us are really the lucky ones. We get loved the most. And when soft toys get loved enough, we can become real." "What do you mean, real?" said the Velveteen Rabbit. "Being real is the best," said Cowboy Horse. "You can move when you want. When you are real, if you are loved, you can show the love back." Part 2. Chosen. One day, Nana, who took care of the boy, flew open the lid of the toy box. She said in a busy tone, "Oh dear, that walking doggy is missing. I must find something else for the boy." In a second, the Velveteen Rabbit was plopped down onto the bed with the boy. This began another happy time for Velveteen Rabbit. Each night, the boy would hold the Velveteen Rabbit close in his arms. In the morning, the boy would show the Velveteen Rabbit how to make rabbit holes under the sheets. If the boy went outside to a picnic or to the park, the Velveteen Rabbit would come with him. After all that hugging and holding, much of the Velveteen Rabbit's fur got matted down. Its pink nose grew less pink, but the Velveteen Rabbit did not care. It was happy. One day the boy became sick. His forehead got very hot. The doctor came and went, and Nana walked back and forth in fear. Day after day, the boy stayed in bed. There was nothing for Velveteen Rabbit to do but to stay in bed too, day after day. Then at last, the boy got better. Such joy in the house. The doctor said the boy must go to the shore. How wonderful, thought Velveteen Rabbit. Many times the boy had talked with great excitement about the shore, about its wide sandy beach and big blue ocean. What about this old bunny? Nana asked the doctor. That old thing? Said the doctor. It's full of scarlet fever germs. Burn it at once. Get him a new bunny. The Velveteen Rabbit was thrown into a sack along with the boy's bed sheets and old clothes and a lot of junk. The sack was carried to the backyard. The gardener was told to burn the whole thing. But the gardener was too busy picking the beans and peas before nightfall, so he left the sack behind. I'll take care of it tomorrow, he said. The sack was not tied at the top, and the Velveteen Rabbit fell out. Part 3. A Tiny Fairy. The next day, when the gardener picked up the sack to take it away to be burned, the Velveteen Rabbit was not in it. Then it started to rain. The Velveteen Rabbit felt sad, so far away from the boy, never again to be nice and cozy inside together, and now soaking wet too. A tear fell from the Velveteen Rabbit's eye over his cheek. It plopped onto the grass. All at once, the spot where the tear fell, a flower grew up. The bud of the flower opened. Inside was a tiny fairy.
Little rabbit,
Said the fairy.
do you know who I am?
Should I know you? Said the Velveteen Rabbit.
I'm the fairy that takes care of toys that are well loved.
Said the fairy. By then the Velveteen Rabbit was shabby and frayed. The boy had loved off all of its whiskers. The pink lining in the ears had worn into a light gray. Its dark brown spots, once fresh and bright, were now faded and hard to see.
It's time for me to make you real.
Said the fairy. I think I remember real, said Velveteen Rabbit. What was it that Cowboy Horse had said? Ah, yes. When you are real, you move when you want to move. If you are loved, you can love back. With one touch of the fairy's wand, the Velveteen Rabbit felt different. Tickly. All of a sudden, its two legs that had always been sewn together tight could move apart. A fly landed on Velveteen Rabbit's head. It was itchy, and as quick as a wink, that foot was up at the Velveteen Rabbit's head to shake it away. So this is being real. I can move when I want to move,
I will show you some new friends.
said the fairy. And the fairy took the Velveteen Rabbit to where several rabbits ran and hopped about. Soon they were all great friends. Time went by. The boy came back from the shore, all better now. Part 4. They Meet Again. One day the boy went to the backyard to play. From the trees nearby, a few rabbits hopped out. One rabbit was brown all over, and another was all white. A third rabbit was brown with spots that were still darker brown, though most of them faded.
The rabbit hopped up close to the boy. The boy thought, "Why, this rabbit looks just like my old bunny that was lost when I was sick. I loved that bunny." What he didn't know was this was his very own bunny come back to see the boy. For he was the reason the Velveteen Rabbit had become real.
Hey friends, we are sharing some of your wonderful thoughts on our story, The Velveteen Rabbit. If you haven't watched our video read-along of The Velveteen Rabbit yet, go check it out. Here's a response from Emily. Emily says, "Never look down on yourself. Believe in who you are. And when people say words, some really come true." Wow, Emily, that is so wise. Believing in yourself is the first step toward becoming truly real, just like the Velveteen Rabbit. And words, they have so much power. The kind ones we say can change someone's whole day. Want to watch the full story and practice your reading skills? Hop on over to our channel.